the fight choreography was 1, 5, 2, 3, which were all these different moves. So we would learn them that way. And so, the way that we would when we were first learning them, and we would both just yell out what the number was. 1, 5, 2, 4.
Exactly.
And so you go very slowly at first, and then
you have to build the speed. You have to build the muscle memory.
And you have to build the speed and the muscle memory. And so I think, the biggest fight scene. Then just to finish off the protocol. Is that before every performance you have a fight call, where you run through the whole choreography until everybody's comfortable with it. So you have to do that. So you're not just assuming that we did it last night. Okay, of course the final fight with Macduff, which was a lot of fun.
And it's the one I'm always thinking of.
There were it was broken into 3 different sections with lines in between and kind of chasing each other around this raked stage and blah, 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 blah. And the very end of it is me going backwards up the runway defending against Macduff.
Macduff is...
And I'm just like, and when I said, really? Backwards? But, as you get used to it, it's like, but it's...
We can do things backwards. Ginger Rogers danced backwards in heels now, Carol.
Yeah,
so no argument about being able to fight going backwards. I was just
a little bit more concerned about the width of the runway.
Oh.
Details.
Yes.
But no, I never even came close to... Although, what was it? In one rehearsal... I lost hold of the sword. This was a rehearsal, fortunately, and it went into the audience. So fortunately, then I said, be sure that you remember to hold tight to this thing. So
that's why they call it rehearsal.
That's right.
You get to do all the bad things there, so that the audience considers themselves safe.
Yes, exactly. So, but yeah, it was. That was a lot of fun. Now, as it turned out, I was starting to have, and you called me agile earlier, I was starting to have shoulder problems. And I'm like, I just got to get through the fight. So, but that was really fun because, at that point, Macbeth is completely crazy.
He has lost it pretty much.
He has lost it. And I am screaming these lines. And what Adam did is he had a whole bunch of leaves fall down right before the fight. So you get the sense that you're outdoors in basically a windstorm. And so you've got all this wind sound going on, and I'm screaming these lines, damn be him who tells me thus, and that's what I'm just screaming these lines, So fortunately that's at the very end, so I don't have to say anything more because I probably blew out my voice in that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and Sharon Brown was playing Macduff, and
now I have to call you on this fun part because it's fun once you know how to do it. But please tell me that during those times that you were working with Ed Beaver and Max Beaver, and those times when Adam is talking to you about the emotional levels that have to be met in these scenes, and when you're going to, when you see the ghost, and when you start falling apart, and when, all of that stuff, that's work.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying.
Well, I just want to convey to our audience the fact that it looks like so much fun is 100% due to the skill of the performers and the rest of the production staff.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of work that goes into it to make it look that easy.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. And as it turns out, the woman playing Lady Macbeth was our fight captain.
Oh.
So she managed the fight calls before the show, and every time before the show, we would have to run that fight scene more than once because she's like, you got to speed it up, or your parry is it's not high enough, or for safety reasons and for visual reasons. Anyway, so it was exhausting. I'm wearing this huge coat, working up a sweat right before the show.
I was going to talk about the costuming next to say, okay, you think of women in Shakespearean times have the flowy kinds of things that supplement and augment the female form, most of the time. Now dressed in the heavy leggings and doublets and with the swords and the capes, that just adds so much extra tension.
Yeah, and I mean we played it period, I guess you would call it. I mean with big, I had like fur covered capes over basically a black cassock, and boots and whatnot. We doing, and and then I had 3 different big capes, and depending on where I was in my rise to power, and armor, and all this kind of stuff. So but the thing is that those are just so valuable in getting you into the character. I mean, that was one of the things that we had to think about. Or Adam said, you are playing this as a man. You will carry yourself like a man. When you sit down, you will spread your knees apart. You will man spread. and once I get the boots on and the big cape, the heavy big capes, that became very, very natural. That so those, I mean, costumes always help.
Always.
I mean,
I've always found them.
Yeah, once you've been doing rehearsals in your street clothes and and that first time you put on the costume, you're like, now I got it. So, but and I just on the work standpoint, it is a good thing that I was retired when I did this.
Oh,
because I had to put in probably 4 hours a day working on lines for weeks on end. Memorizing all those lines is not easy, and I'm like, well, number one, I'm 56, so I'm blaming age for one, but the other part of it is that I think men who have grown up with the idea that someday they may play Macbeth read the play differently than I had all my life, and so I'd never really thought about that I would need to memorize some of these speeches. And so, that was a lot of work.
Well, needing to do that, then, did you find? I'm going to assume. Don't make an ass out of me. I'm going to assume that you have seen Macbeth before.
I have.
Okay. Then you have seen it through an actor's interpretation and different directors' interpretations. What did you find either easiest or most difficult when you had to say the lines?
Well, one part of it is in the back of my mind, there's always this panic that I'm going to blank, so there's a little bit of that. But what I found, and I mean, when I taught high school, and I went to that 1 year of high school, I went to teach 9th grade science and 11th grade chemistry, and they said, well, you've got some more time. Is there anything else you'd like to teach? And I'm like, I wasn't expecting this in my interview, and I'm like, Shakespeare? And they said, okay.
Whoa.
So I think we even studied, I even taught Macbeth, But what I found when I had to really learn the lines was I really had to delve to understand what I was saying. Okay. I mean, I'm at a point when I can read Shakespeare is that I can read it just without having to look down at the notes and all this kind of stuff. I know what they're talking about. But every now and again, there's just this one of, wait a minute, what exactly, what is the subject of this sentence? What exactly am I saying here?
What are you trying to convey, or what is Shakespeare trying to convey?
And what, what do we mean by that? And so it vastly deepened my appreciation for the text. The nice thing about Shakespeare, and I had never really appreciated this because I'd only done a couple of Shakespeare characters. I really have not done a lot of Shakespeare, but it is there in the text for you. It is always, the whole characterization is there in the text for you. You don't have to be, going through physical convolutions or whatever to convey.
Right.
It's
well,
in the text.
As long as you receive the guidance and the help that you need to pull it out of there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not laying on the surface.
Right.
But I have also heard that myself.
Yeah.
That the amazing one of the amazing parts of Shakespeare is the fact that he tells you everything you need to know from a performance perspective. Right. Who is this person? What is this person going through?
And I think, more so than I've had in other experiences. Because other experiences, it's like, okay, I got my lines, I got my costume, I got my blocking, and I got my character. Okay, so I got all my logistics set.
I'm good, right? All your stagecraft.
Yep. But in this case, it was, they all, more so than I've ever had an experience, they supported each other. It was like, because I had the blocking, I could remember the lines, and because I was, because I had this costume on, I could remember how the character feels at this point, and that they all just kind of swirled together into one great stew.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, that's interesting because being an actor myself, I understand that concept of putting those pieces together and that all of the pieces support one another. But what you're saying is that it's different and it's more intense.
It was more intense.
In the Shakespearean.
It was more intense in that because, and the set. I mean, every time I came down that runway, coming down that runway just establishes a mindset. Of different types,
Yes.
There was the coming down the runway after having killed Duncan. That's one mindset, Then there's the coming down the runway going, I'm really worried about Banquo. That's a different mindset,
And then, oh God, don't let me meet Macduff. There's that mindset.
There's that mindset. So, but
okay. Well, let's see. Is there anything else? I guess I wanted to ask just. Unusual situation, a non-usual character. We've talked about how you got there and how you felt doing it. What are your takeaways from having done the role of Macbeth in an all-female version of Macbeth?
I actually, that last comment I made about allowing the different elements to really support and work together. I think in the future, I will. My maybe it's the scientist in me, but I'm like I compartmentalize. Lines, blocking, costumes, character. All right, everybody's all lined up. Okay, we're ready to go. But letting those. Fuse in a way that is not necessarily consciously controlled, and allowing that to happen. I think that will be a very good. Will help my performances in the future.
Well, now from now on, what I'm going to think of every time I see you on stage is I'm going to think that woman is a controlled explosion.
Great.
Carol Van Zoren, thank you so very much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
I learned a lot today.
Good.
And I hope that everyone who hears this appreciates the amount of effort and thoughtfulness that goes into these things. And whoever gets an opportunity to see you, I certainly hope they take advantage of that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Sponsored by TLCscripts.com.